What's going on YouTube? Got another knife review here for you. Today we're going to be looking at the Boker Plus Federal. This is a collaboration with Gustavo Cecchini, a Brazilian knife maker, highly sought after custom maker. His knives on the secondary market easily go for well over $1,000. This is again another collaboration that Boker was able to get. Another custom maker that they were able to, I don't know how they did it, but they got them to sign on with them to do this, another collaboration. And you guys, if you've been following my channel, know how bad of an experience I've had with Boker. Between the Rexford Epicenter, the knife with, infamous lock rock. This one I have tuned up, I've tightened the lock bar, I've carbidized, I've done everything to this knife, and there's still lock rock. But if you, all things considered though, after, doing all this work to it, obviously I did acid stonewash to this blade now, so it looks different from a stock Epicenter. When you squeeze this down or holding it down with a secure grip, actually it locks in great. There's no side-to-side blade play. Well, I can muster a little bit right now, but flips out decently. This is, a knife that I love the design, and yet I hate it so much because of all the issues that Boker has with their knives. This one right here, the Jeremy Marsh Mini Vanquish, also had all kinds of problems. Just one day after playing with it for a little bit, there was side-to-side play, the blade was completely off-centered, bolsters aren't lined up that well, and again, this is a $70-some knife. It's more expensive than, say, a Spyderco Delica, and a Delica has pretty great fit and finish. I'm not sure, I've only owned one Delica a long time ago, so don't really remember if it had blade play or anything like that, but this knife I had to take apart numerous times, smooth it out, grease up, and adjust everything so that at least it's smooth and at least it's centered. But I can muster some blade play side to side pretty easily, as well as up and down, get a little bit of rock. So definitely not the best quality of knife, and so Boker Plus, when you're talking about very high-end, Jeremy Marsh is almost impossible to get on the secondary market, and if you do find him there, you're talking easily $1,500 to $2,000 for a knife of that caliber. Now getting into this knife, let me put this out there. At least based on my experience and from what I have been seeing on a lot of reviewers' pages, this is one of Boker's redemption knives, if I can title it that way. They did a great job on this knife. But let me preface this. This is after tuning this knife up quite a bit. Flips out like a Right now, it flips out like a dream, extremely smooth. I can just drop the blade in. I think that this is Boker's maybe first project with bearings, the nested bearings. This one, I believe, uses, I'm not sure if they're actually Gus's GTC bearings or if they're just generic ones, but they are metal cage bearings in here. If you do follow my Instagram, I did a teardown, not a video, but a bunch of different pics of this knife, and there's one picture, it's the same username as my YouTube one, so Piaoliang at Instagram, but inside you do see the cage bearings, you see as well the mechanisms and how this blade works. If you were to look at, say, this is my Pohan Liu bluefin right here. This one flips on IKBS, so not bearings, but old IKBS bearings. You see this pin right here. This is an internal stop pin, and you have a blade track, a blade cutout, on the actual blade itself that runs, that this actual stop pin runs along. And so when it's open, it stops here on the blade track, and then when it's closed, that runs all the way along, because you can imagine this track along the blade right here. As it comes and as it closes, then that track ends right here and causes the blade to close. So it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to continue to run through the frame and whatnot. Okay, so flips amazingly, and it works very well. For the Boker, it actually has the cutout on the frame. So on the titanium frame, there is a track along here. And so that's kind of interesting because, obviously being a knife from China, it's not carbidized in any way. So I'm wondering if, and so what it is there's actual pin, a relatively large pin, almost the size of this pivot, that is pressed into this blade. So there's a little hole that's cut out in the blade, so that's pressed in. It doesn't go all the way through to the other side of this blade, so it's flush along this side. And so that pin then runs along that track in the titanium frame. So that pin being steel, I'm assuming, running along that titanium, every time it hits along there, it could actually dent, potentially that titanium in there. And so it could develop blade play down the road. So I may consider actually like carbidizing the inside edges of that track on here to prevent any play. When I first got this knife, my first order of business was to carbidize this lock frame. This lock bar. So the lock face right here. And that was the first thing I did. I took this knife apart, carbidized it, re-greased it, and everything. And since then, it's been perfect. Right now, there's no stick whatsoever on the lock tang. Centering is ever so slightly off. I mean, the tip is not too bad. And so that's one thing, in terms of quality control from the China factory. And even though it doesn't rub anywhere, I believe it kind of curves a little bit so that even the tip, it looks like it's centered. But obviously, when you compare it over here, the gap is somewhat larger than over here. But that's what you're, going to expect from, a China-made blade, if you will. So I can say that stuff because I'm Chinese. But inside here is an inlay of quote-unquote carbon fiber. Again, you have this pattern here. I think it's kind of like a laminate. It's a thin laminate, kind of like the Sage 1, where it's laminate on top of G10. When you do look on the inside over here of the actual inlay, you'll see that there is no patterning of carbon fiber. So, even in this very thin layer, doesn't seem like it's carbon fiber. You see the glue that they use to adhere the inlay onto the titanium. So, yeah, so that's kind of how it works. And that track that I was talking about on here kind of just runs along, and it goes all the way through. And that's where you see the carbon fiber, or again, the quote-unquote carbon fiber sitting there. So you see the black of that, and then you see the glue that's in there. So it's not smoothed out, because you can actually feel the glue inside the adhesive that they use to stick on to the titanium. The actual fit of it it's not bad, considering it's a production knife and from China. You can obviously see how my nail catches on there, but overall the fit of it's pretty good. I mean, no real spaces to speak of, other than catching the finger. So it's not the exact same depth, but that's not too bad. Again, flipping action on this knife is, I would say, is actually just as good, if not better, than this ZT801, this Rexford collaboration. This is a great flipper, but this one, man, this one is crazy smooth. Normally, I think with a Gus Cecchini GTC custom, you might get like a S35 steel or maybe CPM 154. This one comes with 440C, which is a typical Chinese steel. I found it to be decent. It takes a pretty good edge pretty easily, and it holds it for a little bit. I haven't really given a very hard cut test on this knife, but it's actually not too bad. I used to have a Boker Plus Excalibur, and I was actually pretty impressed with that steel. So it's not going to be as good as S35 or obviously like 3V or CPM 154, but for a Chinese steel, it's probably maybe a little bit worse than like Sandvik steel. It's definitely better than AUS 8 though. So, and then you also have this .2, so it's 20 thou thick blade stock. So that's a pretty impressive stock that goes down to a very fine edge. This knife came extremely sharp from Boker, so that was also quite impressive. Now, obviously, the Federal, one of its defining factors and design elements is this hidden pocket clip. The original custom, I think, is the Federal H/C, meaning the hidden clip. And so the way that this one actually works is you see how it's thinned out. So this is kind of like a cutaway lock bar relief, if you will, for specifically for this side. This side over here is just to match up, so there's symmetry to the knife. But this knife has this clip right here. So this is loose. And so when you bend this over, and you've probably seen this on other people's videos by now, but when you bend this over, then that's where you slip your pant pocket through there. So it's pretty, it's an ingenious idea, except when you're actually trying to implement it, it doesn't work very well. One, there's high tension, and so to squeeze this over and then try to squeeze this down in your pocket. I mean, I'm using two hands. If I use one hand, it's hard to keep it down right here, and then without getting pinched in there. I just pinched myself right there, and it kind of hurts. So that, and then plus, you're pinching down on these screws, and so the frame, this titanium frame right there, it's cut so thin that when your fingers are in here, it's digging into your skin. So it's kind of cutting at your skin. So that's extremely uncomfortable as well. So you're trying to twist this knife to get it in. I think with practice, you can start doing it better and a little bit easier, and especially, depending on your pants pocket. But if I were to use, even this card right here and try to put it on, you see how you have to twist it and then slide it in right there, and then there's just the slight amount of pocket clip that is sitting and securing your knife in there. And if you guys watched, oh no, that was a different folder, never mind. But yeah, so there's not much that's holding on there. The tension is pretty tight, so it does kind of secure it in there, but I can see how it would fall out quite easily out of your pocket. The good thing is that the tension doesn't keep the knife in this position. It goes back, it reverts back because of titanium's memory in general. But you can see how it's slightly off as well, so that could be somewhat of annoyance for some people. For me, it's actually not too bad. The funny thing is when I test for blade play, I'll hold it this way and I'll pull it and I'll be like, whoa, it's like totally moving, but it's actually the back of my hand that keeps pushing the knife over this way that I'm feeling blade play. This knife is absolutely rock solid, no up and down blade play whatsoever. Side to side is very smooth, and you can see how it just falls right back into it. Detent as well is good, very strong. So overall comparisons to these other knives, obviously again you have the Rexford Epicenter, Boker, you have the ZT-0801, similar style, similar size blade as well. This one's got a 3.25, 3¼ inch blade, so it's a good working EDC, not overly thick because of, the scales aren't too thick, even though the blade stock is massive at 0.2. There's the Sebenza, so Sebenza's somewhat longer, somewhat more refined, and then there's the Marsh, probably the smallest out of the bunch. So again, overall, this knife, I really do believe it's a redeeming knife for Boker Plus. It kind of restores a little bit of my faith in this company to be able to carry out something like this. I think Gus lucked out in terms of them, really doing well on this knife. The lock bar radius, or I'm sorry, the blade tang radius is not quite as bad as some of the other knives that I've seen out there from Boker Plus, particularly the ones, the frame lock ones. So, that's probably one of the big reasons. I don't know if it's maybe because I did carbidize it early to prevent any of that wear, because I do think that Boker, from the factory, their titanium probably runs a little bit soft, which maybe contributes to that really quick wear on the Boker Plus lines, the titanium ones that they've been making. So anyway, that's my take on the Boker Plus Gus Cecchini collaboration Federal. Overall, I think it is a great blade. As a user, it's very comfortable, very ergonomic. Blade steel, even though it's not the best, is adequate, especially with this blade stock. Takes a good edge. So anyway, yeah, you're hearing me say this, Boker Plus, they actually made a good knife in this one. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Guys, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. You guys take care, and I'll see you on the next vid. Bye.